Welcome to Growing Inspiration, the podcast that nurtures your passion for the arts and creativity. I'm your host, Shana McLean, and I'm thrilled to take you on this delightful journey through the vibrant world of arts and culture. In each episode, you can expect engaging interviews with a diverse range of artistic and creative individuals. We'll delve into what inspires them, explore their unique creative processes, and discover how their art enriches their lives. Together, we'll uncover the beauty of literature, the performing arts, the visual arts, food, wine, and spirits, and the inspiration gained through travel. Whether you're a connoisseur or just beginning your exploration, our conversations will inspire you to deepen your understanding and appreciation of the arts. So get ready to discover new perspectives, spark your creativity, and join a community of fellow art lovers. Welcome to Growing Inspiration. Last month marked the first anniversary of this podcast, and if you've been listening for the past year, you may have noticed something. I've talked to winemakers and poets, photographers and Celtic fiddlers, novelists and creative writing professors. We've explored Bach and gin and sparkling wine and the science of terroir. While I mentioned it in the podcast intro, I haven't directly addressed the thread that runs through these particular conversations. Today I'm going to do that. This podcast is an arm of my platform, Garden of My Delights. It is for lifelong learners, for the curious, the knowledge collectors, those who read in at least 3 subjects at once, who love to learn and are so frustrated when life doesn't leave room for that kind of exploration. If that sounds like you, welcome. You're in the right place. The name, Garden of My Delights, comes from something very old and very beautiful. There's a medieval illuminated encyclopedia called the Hortus Deliciarum, which in Latin means Garden of Delights. It was completed around 1185, and it may be the first encyclopedia ever written by a woman. The author's name was Herrad of Landsberg. She was the abbess of Hohenberg Abbey in Alsace, on the border of modern Germany. And she compiled this remarkable work as a teaching tool for the novices in her care. It contained over 300 illustrations and is one of the most famous manuscripts of the medieval era. One of those illustrations is titled Philosophia e Septem Artes Liberales, Philosophy and the 7 Liberal Arts. At the center sits the figure of philosophy, surrounded by the 7 arts that in medieval tradition formed the foundation of all learning. This is the image that inspires me and is what this platform is built on. Today I want to talk to you about the origin of the liberal arts and why, as busy as you are, you should care about them. I'd like to start with a little bit of my own story so that you can get an idea of why this means so much to me. I grew up in a rural area with little access to cultural sites or events, but the library was my favorite place, my sanctuary. I was the girl who always had a book with her. That was how I learned about the world, reading through the Newbery Award poster on the door of our tiny elementary school library, and then working my way through lists of classics and important literature in high school. In high school, I played clarinet and oboe in band, and I discovered Shakespeare in the theater. My interest centered on the arts, and yet, like a lot of young people, I made a practical calculation because we've been told the arts aren't a stable career, so I needed to find a different path. And I found that in a small liberal arts college. I majored in international studies, which turned out to be the perfect container for everything I was interested in. History, politics, economics, language, culture. The broad exposure across multiple fields was useful preparation for my work life, but is also an extraordinary expansion of my intellectual world. I also had the chance to study in France and Spain in college, and those experiences widened my view of the world even more. My appreciation for art, architecture, food, language, my desire to know something about everything. And then unexpectedly, my career required me to learn about science and technology, fields I had never thought I'd be interested in. And to my surprise, I was good at it. I found that I could marry my understanding of history and global affairs with my newfound interest in science, and my intellectual world grew exponentially. That experience of discovering seemingly unrelated fields, cross-pollinating in ways that produce new ideas, new perspectives, new capabilities, that's at the heart of what I believe about learning, and it's what the liberal arts are meant to cultivate. Creativity doesn't come from deep specialization alone. It comes from breadth combined with depth. Pursuing knowledge across several disciplines can allow your mind to pull information and frameworks from each, combining them in new and creative ways. Now, before we get into what the liberal arts are, I want to briefly acknowledge the reputation they've acquired. When most people hear liberal arts education, they think of an expensive college major with questionable career prospects. But the liberal arts, as they were originally conceived, were never meant to be ornamental. They were foundational. They were the curriculum designed to produce a free person. The word liberal doesn't mean left-leaning. It comes from the Latin liber, meaning free. These were the arts of freedom, the education that gave you the capacity for self-governance, the ability to think clearly, reason rigorously, speak persuasively, and understand the world well enough to participate in it with wisdom and intention. Plato introduced the concept in the Republic as the essential skills and fields of knowledge a free person needed in order to take part in civic life, to argue a case, participate in public debate, and understand the forces shaping society. The classical liberal arts were organized into two tiers. The first was the trivium, or path of three, which were known as the arts of the word, and those were rhetoric, grammar, and logic. The second was the quadrivium, the four-part path, the arts of numbers, comprising astronomy, mathematics or arithmetic, geometry, and music. In modern times, the liberal arts have coalesced into the humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, and the arts. These fields create a foundation for continual learning throughout one's life. And in modern times, a liberal arts education is meant to prepare an individual to adapt to a changing economy, and that a person should be able to reason their way into any field. So why does any of this matter to you right now in 2026? Let's come back to the idea of the garden. Your garden of delights is the place where you plant and nurture the things that feed your soul, mind, and body. It's the sanctuary of activities where you recharge when everyday life depletes you. It's what fuels your creativity and your individuality. Creativity doesn't come from just a single source. It comes from breadth, as I mentioned, from exposure, from the ability to wander across fields and bring things back, an idea from history that illuminates a problem in technology, a metaphor from music that unlocks something in writing, a geometric principle that reshapes how you see a design challenge. Creativity increases with serendipitous changes in direction, but it can also be cultivated through intentional exploration of new areas of study, new fields, new hobbies. To be inspired, we need to put ourselves in the way of ideas, perspectives, places, and people that become points we connect to what we already know. Those new connections are where creativity lives. The author Shana McLean talks about putting yourself in the path of inspiration and living as though being inspired is your job. And I love that framing. Don't wait to be inspired. Actively position yourself to be in its way. The liberal arts give you a framework for doing that intentionally. They give you a map of the terrain, of the major categories of human knowledge and inquiry, and invite you to wander through all of it, not just the corner that you happen to live in professionally. In real life, finding the things that feed our souls and minds may mean rediscovering something from earlier in life, such as a cherished hobby, an abandoned interest, a subject we loved before we decided we needed to be practical. Maybe it's a musical instrument you haven't touched in years. Maybe it's dusting off that volume of Shakespeare sitting on your shelf. Maybe it's simply allowing yourself to take time to go to a concert or an art gallery, or to spend an afternoon in a botanical garden, just because it's beautiful. This rediscovery is not an indulgence. It is, I would argue, a responsibility to cultivate the fullness of your own mind, to refuse to accept a version of yourself where curiosity gets crowded out by obligation. We need that capacity now more than ever. We live in a world drowning in information and starving for wisdom. We have access to more knowledge than any human beings in history, and yet the ability to think carefully, reason rigorously, and communicate with genuine clarity feels increasingly rare. So liberal arts, I believe, are the antidote, and they're available to all of us, not just to people who study them in college, to you right now, wherever you are in life, with a curious mind and the willingness to engage. And that's what this platform is for. So I want to tell you a little bit about what I'm building here and where I hope it goes. I envision Garden of My Delights as a platform structured the way a great university might have been structured. A series of colleges around a central agora or community square, a place where people come together not just to consume information, but to think, to discuss, and to connect with other learners who take the life of the mind seriously. The first college we'll build is the College of Letters, focused on books, writing, language, rhetoric, and the literary arts. It's the natural starting place because language is foundational. Grammar, logic, rhetoric, the arts of the word are the tools that make all other learning possible. They're how we understand, how we reason, and how we share what we've discovered. From there, over time, we'll build outward. The sciences, the arts, philosophy, history, music, each area explored not in isolation, but in conversation with the others, because that's where the interesting things happen. That's where the connections form. That's where creativity is born. Ellen Browning Scripps, for whom Scripps College is named, said something that I really appreciate. The paramount obligation of a college is to develop in its students the ability to think clearly and independently, and the ability to live confidently, courageously, and hopefully. I think that's the right goal. Not just knowledge, but the capacity to think. Not just information, but the ability to live well with what you know. And that's what I'm trying to build, a place where lifelong learners can do exactly that. Think clearly, connect deeply, grow exponentially. Whatever fields you bring with you when you walk through the gate. So that's it for this episode. An introduction to the liberal arts as a framework for learning, creativity, and a richer intellectual life. In our next episode, we're going to get very practical. We're going to talk about time, specifically how to make time for the learning life you actually want, even when you're working full time, even when your life is full, even when the stack of unread books feels more like an accusation than an invitation. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with someone you think would enjoy it. Word of mouth is how independent podcasts grow. You can also find me at Garden of My Delights and on YouTube and Instagram at Garden of My Delights. If you're interested in learning more about what's ahead, including a workshop that's coming in late April, sign up to receive updates. The link is in the show notes. Thank you for spending this time with me. Go and plant something in your garden. I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Growing Inspiration. I hope you found today's conversation as inspiring as I did. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to subscribe and share it with your friends. To dive deeper into the world of arts and creativity, visit my website at gardenofmydelights.com for exclusive content and resources, including show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter for the latest updates and insights. You can also connect with me on Instagram for more inspiration at Garden of My Delights. Until next time, keep nurturing your creativity and looking for beauty and wisdom all around you.